Thank you so much. And my name is Priya Narasimhan. I'm the CEO and founder of Yinscam, our company based out of the United States. And we're fortunate enough to work with 200 different professional sports teams and leagues on their mobile apps. Thank you for listening to my talk today. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about Yinscam, how we got started. If we can go to the next slide. So we started really out of the university in Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. I didn't start off as a sports fan, but when I moved to Pittsburgh, I went to my first hockey game and absolutely fell in love with the sport. And we really wanted to have something unique for fans so that they could see different camera angles when they were inside a venue. So we really started from that concept about 13 years ago. We've been doing this for the last 13 years. If we could go to the next slide. So as you can see, we started in 2009. Then we launched for NFL clubs. We work with 25 NFL clubs. We work with 22 NBA teams. Then we launched in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa, more recently last year. And then also we've been fortunate enough to work with, for example, Rayados in Mexico as well. If we could go to the next slide. These are the people we're really fortunate to work with. These are our clients. And these are the people who make us who we are. I'm eternally grateful to them because they're the ones who really push innovation forward. And without them, none of this would be possible. So today I'm going to talk about case studies with many of these teams, what they do with us, and how particularly under the last year, with uncertainty of COVID, the kind of innovation that most of these clubs did with us. So today I'm going to tell you the story of creativity under COVID, especially over the last year in the world of sport as we saw it. If we could go to the next slide. Okay, so if we can go further to the next slide. Okay, so what characterizes us? Rapid crowdsourced innovation. So we often will have an idea that starts with one team over here and it rapidly spreads from team to team. And as it spreads from team to team, each time, each team has a little bit of a twist on it, which is really, really, really fascinating. And clients often come to us with ideas, and we execute these ideas, I would say, in a matter of weeks or days. And our goal is really to optimize the fan experience. And what do I mean by optimizing the fan experience? By optimizing the fan experience, I mean that we use data to really tailor the fan experience. And so you'll see how we use data and segmentation to create unique journeys out of one single app. And you'll see some examples of this in the case studies from our clubs. If we can go to the next slide. So standard metrics. These are metrics that everybody knows of, right? Downloads, unique users, page views, sessions. All those we consider fairly standard metrics. They're not very interesting. The interesting metrics are user acquisition, the number of users you can get on the platform, the number of known users you can have on the platform. And how do you retain them? How do you do digital membership through a platform, especially through a mobile app? How do you make sure you have tailored content and experiences through a team or a league mobile app? And really, for us, the focus is heavily on how we provide those tailored, personalized experiences using data, using segmentation, and using our platform. If we could go to the next slide. So, a little bit more about the platform. If we can advance to the next slide. Okay, so for us, think about our platform as these things called cards. Cards are like Lego blocks, right? So what is great about Legos? You could go to the store and buy a bunch of Legos. You and I could buy the same set of Legos. We would end up with completely different sculptures, right? And the reason is Legos help you modularize and put things together. All you need to know is how two Legos work. If you know how two Legos work, you can create anything. For us, in our system, we have hundreds of cards. What are cards? Cards for things like fixtures, cards for things like scores, cards for things like live video, cards for things like photo galleries. Everything is a card. We have hundreds of cards that we have created with 200 different sports organizations. And these cards can be native features, they can be web views, they can be SDKs, they can be APIs. Cards take all different shapes and forms. And really, the goal of these cards is to put them together quickly and to assemble them dynamically without an app update. And then to be able to reassemble them and then put them together again and reassemble them and put them again together again. depending on the segment of fans. And you'll see a lot of that as I discuss the case studies. Maybe go to the next slide. And here you'll see cards work as building blocks, right? So cards link to native features, third parties, web views. Cards have different dynamic visual styling. By dynamic visual styling, if we could play that first video, you'll see in that first video a single little news card. A single small news card has so many different forms. There are 15, 20 versions of a single news card. Like that photos, we have another 20 versions of photo cards. So almost every card in our universe has multiple different forms. If we could play that second video, you'll see that cards come in and out. So the whole goal is to have dynamic apps where these cards keep changing. So pre-match, in-match, post-match. If you're sitting at the home, if you're sitting inside a stadium, the cards should be changing. So for us, the goal is dynamic apps driven by data, driven by external triggers. And the app is constantly changing to anticipate what the user wants. And you can also personalize and customize every single card. So that really is, the goal for us overall. If we can go to the next slide. So one app, many journeys. So think of your app. Think of the app your organization wants, right? Think of all the cards you want. You probably want some stats cards. You probably want some media content cards. You probably want some stadium cards. You probably want some experience cards, augmented reality, loyalty program, mobile ticketing. Think of all these cards. We've probably built some of them already, right? Now, and if we can go ahead and animate the rest of the slide, for each of these cards, let's provide some business rules. What are these business rules? By time, you can say this card will appear and disappear by time. Location, this card will appear inside the stadium. This card will appear inside the city. This card will appear in the country. Language, this card will appear if your phone says you speak Spanish, if your phone has the Portuguese setting turned on. So whatever language you have, your cards can change. This card appears if you're on a Samsung device. Non-Samsung devices, it won't appear. This card appears if you're on a Verizon device. It doesn't appear on other kinds of devices. So this card appears only if your team wins. If your team loses, it doesn't appear. So you can have all these business rules for every single card, which means cards can be visible or not visible based on these business rules. And if you can go ahead and animate, you'll see out of this single set of cards, right? Hundreds of cards, all these business rules, you can get multiple kinds of apps. And if we can go ahead and animate the rest of the slide, you'll see we can do a different experience, different set of cards for a season ticket member sitting inside the stadium, and a completely different set of cards for a couch fan who didn't go to the stadium that day and who might even speak a different language. So one app, many journeys, hundreds of cards, millions of layouts. And that really is the focus of our platform. And we are fortunate, really fortunate, to have built this platform with 200 different sports organizations. So chances are, any card you can think of, any feature you can think of, we've probably built it with one of these teams. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, here's an example. And this is one of my favorite examples because it speaks to the innovation of the club. So this is Wolves in the UK. And the credit is not us. The credit is due to Wolves, right? Specifically, Richard Pepper over at Wolves. What he did was he used this cards infrastructure to build a dynamic video-rich hub. You can filter videos by player, by highlights, by interviews, extended highlights, box sets. And he did this in an hour. And the beauty of the platform is you can assemble these cards very quickly to get these kinds of rich experiences. Let's go to another case study. If we want to go to the next slide for yet another case study. Okay, here we go for the Ravens. And let's go ahead and animate the slide so you can see the whole flow. This is 12 hours of Ravens game day. 12 hours, right? So if you think about the Ravens, right, say they play at 1 p.m. on a Sunday. What happens on a Saturday? You get cards in the app, news, video, photo galleries, player interviews, training videos, all those things. Let's animate the rest of the slide so you can see what happens on game day. Game day morning. The headline area shows you the matchup. Now you have information about the radio, the English radio, Spanish radio, where to catch the TV broadcast, tailgating information. What happens 1 hour before kickoff? Live video player. The live video player shows you the players arriving at the stadium. Then you can see Game Center is shown up here. In game, all that is gone. In game, now you need scores, highlights, scores, highlights. Game is done. Now you get the live press conference and you get other cards. So you can see the app is dynamic. The app is changing. The app is changing based on what fans want and what they're looking for. And the cards basically let you assemble and disassemble the app, and the cards can be programmed. This is key. The cards can be programmed in advance with these rules so they can automatically come in and out based on time, location, type of user, type of language, type of device, type of mobile carrier. All those rules will allow these cards to dynamically come in and go, right? And that's fundamental in the platform. Let's go to another case study. Here's one for Rayados. So we were really fortunate and really honored to launch this app with Rayados in Liga MX very recently. I mean, not more than a couple months ago. Again, really interesting, right? We've got Spanish users, English users. Then you've also got cards for Rayados, which is the men's team, but also Rayadas, which is the women's team. So you've got cards for both of them. Then you've got cards for abonados. So you've got cards for season ticket members, right? So now if you look at this experience, you have so many segments here, right? What are the segments? Match day, non-match day. Fine, those are simple segments. Then you've got potentially segments for Rayados and Rayadas. Then you've got segments for abonados. So, and you can have segments inside Mexico and outside Mexico. So now you can see how rich the app can be because cards can be different based on who you are, what team you follow, whether you're a season ticket member or not, what language you speak, and which country you're in. And that's huge because that means you can build a personalized app. If we can go to the next case study. This one was really interesting. We did this for the Olympics this year. So really fascinating. So with Team Canada, what we did was we built their Olympics app. So 371 Canadian athletes, 30 sports, 2 languages, French and English, 1 app. Think about the personalization here. You get to pick your favorite player, you get to pick your favorite sports, and now you get a customized schedule, a customized feed for your favorite athletes, when they show up, what they're doing that day, your favorite sports, what's happening that day, when you can watch on TV. You're doing personalization at an extreme level here, right? And it's really, really, really fascinating what's possible with this kind of personalization and segmentation. If we can go to the next case study. Sorry, again, these slides are a bit rich in images, so they take some time to load. My apologies. This one, if we can animate the slide quickly, this is for the Raiders and Allegiant Stadium. Allegiant Stadium is one of the newest stadiums in the NFL, right? And it was just built and opened last year. So they wanted a dual mode app. What is a dual mode app? Venue mode, team mode. So what is venue mode? Stadium mode. In the stadium mode, you use the app for concerts. Use it for all the other events that happen in the stadium. You switch to team mode and suddenly you've got scores, statistics, information about the players. So you've got stadium mode and team mode, 2 big segments inside the same app. So basically you don't need to build a separate venue stadium app or a separate team app. They're both in one. They just happen to be segments, right? And that gives you a huge advantage in putting everything into one app. If we can go to the next case study. And I believe we had a question here as well. Does this technology depend on the resources of the club? Not really. We have dealt with extremes in resources. We have dealt with teams where they might have 13 people who manage the app. And we've dealt with teams where there might be one person who's doing 4 different jobs inside the team. And the app works in both cases. So we are able to do apps that work despite the resources of the team. And we work to support apps that once you launch it, you don't have to touch it if you don't want to. But you can also change it every day if you want to, every minute if you want to. That's your choice. If we could just go back to the previous slide. The previous slide showed you all the different features we have. Mobile wallet, loyalty, mobile auction, food and beverage ordering, interactive maps, parking, free-to-play gaming, augmented reality. We have so many features on top of the Legos. So you've got Legos and then you've got more Legos, bigger Legos, right? So we have this whole system of Legos that essentially you can bring in and out and you can quickly assemble your app. And now, if we could go to the next slide. And we have about 98 some third parties in our ecosystem. So what does this mean? These all become cards. So we bring in third parties as well and we integrate them so that they become cards. So say you have your stats with say stats, perform, or Opta, we can bring those in as cards. If you have some other kind of feature, we can bring that in as a card as well. That now becomes a Lego block, just like everything else. If we could go to the next slide. So one of the things, and you'll see this come up on the slide, so we have a single sign-on mechanism. So I'll explain what single sign-on means, right? So single sign-on at its simplest is you sign in once and you're never signed out. We actually use single sign-on to integrate different features and different capabilities. So for example, if you have a feature that's under Facebook, we can bring that under single sign-on. Under Ticketmaster, we can bring that under single sign-on. Under SeatGeek, we can bring that under single sign-on. So we can unite different features under the same single sign-on, which means you can have a unified view of the fan, a unified fan profile. And that's tremendously helpful because not only will you know the fan, you will know the fan regardless of what they're doing and what their identity is. If we're not able to bring that slide up, we can just move on to the next slide. And at last count, I think we have something like 200 different segments in our ecosystem. Let's go ahead and animate the entire slide. You'll see here an example of single sign-on in action. This is the digital membership program and the loyalty program that we have with the Steelers. You can see all the different cards that are inside this experience, right? So all these are cards. These are all cards that are living behind that single sign-on so that not only can the team know about their users, but they know what they like and they know what they enjoy and they can build a loyalty program and a membership program around it. Let's go to the next slide. You see again more features, including, for example, a huddle feature where you can talk to players. You can talk to retired players. So you have all kinds of features in there. So you have the ability to talk to different kinds of players as well. So again, you can see the really rich experience from a digital membership standpoint and also from a loyalty standpoint. Let's go ahead to the next slide. All right, creativity under COVID. If we can go to the next slide after this. I want to tell you what our teams, our clients did during the pandemic, because ultimately this platform belongs to them. We would not exist without our clients. And there's just really unique features they've built. For example, here you see a shot clock challenge. What is a shot clock challenge? The moment the pandemic happened and a number of our NBA teams, for instance, there was a pause in play that they couldn't really be playing at that time because as you can recall, right, last year there was a big pause in NBA games. We built a shot clock challenge so that teams could have their fans in each other's apps competing against each other. So for example, if the Pelicans played the Bulls that night, Pelicans fans could be in the Pelicans app, Bulls fans in the Bulls apps, and they could play against each other. So they could actually play a pop-a-shot game where you can go ahead and shoot basketballs into a hoop and compete against each other across team apps. So again, we work with our teams to do that so that they would still have fan engagement during the pandemic. Let's go to the next case study. All right, this idea came from Wolves. They wanted to build what's called an AR portal. So on my phone, I have 3 sensors. I have a GPS sensor, I have a camera, and I have an accelerometer. We are basically using the phone to scan a flat surface. Once you scan the flat surface, as you start walking from your couch, from your sofa at home, you can walk onto the stadium pitch, right? So we built basically this AR portal to let you walk right onto the pitch from your couch and your sofa and your kitchen, right from your home. And so this is what's called an AR portal. And so we built this feature. Now, this was great under COVID because when clubs couldn't have fans go to the stadium, we brought the stadium home to the fan. And that was really, really important. So if you can go to the next set of case studies. Let's go to a few more case studies that show you examples of how the stadium comes home to the fan. Here you see Carolina Panthers. The stadium comes home to the fan. So you'll see again, as you scan your driveway, you scan a flat surface, you can now start walking into Bank of America Stadium, right? You'll see a similar experience with the Chargers. and we can skip the rest of the slide. But again, you can see how rich the experience can be. Let's skip the rest of the slide and go to the next slide. Yeah, we can move past these two videos. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, now this one is really interesting. The San Antonio Spurs did this with us very recently. So what they did was they wanted, a Hall of Fame, a trophy Hall of Fame for one of their most famous players, Tim Duncan, right? So Tim Duncan is legendary. He has so many trophies, has won so many trophies. They wanted a way that you could use this AR portal to go visit his Hall of Fame. That from your couch, you could go straight into an AR portal that let you walk around. So once the slides come back up, let's see Tim Duncan's Hall of Fame. In the meantime, let me answer a question. One of the questions that we had was, what are the clues to catch the attention of a fan who's not used to this kind of experience with their club or their mobile app? It's a great question. It's a fantastic question. So one of the best ways to be able to do that is really to have features that are really, really about benefiting the fan, right? So for example, we have seen that whenever you have anything to do with the live match, fans will use the app. Ticketing, fans will use the app. So any feature like that the fan really wants, they will move to the team mobile app for it. You can see now the Tim Duncan Hall of Fame that I just mentioned. You can see straight from my kitchen, I can walk into the Tim Duncan Hall of Fame. And this is again an example of an AR portal. This happened during COVID. This is the kind of innovation that our clubs have been doing, which is just amazing to me that during a year when we had sports pause for a period of time, our clubs were innovating rapidly. And these are some examples.
Climb the mountain back to NBA champion.
Let's go to the next slide.
Great coaching, persistence, drive, love for the game.
Let's go to the next
remember what happened last year and how it felt in that locker room, and we used it and built on it and got back here, and it's amazing. It makes last year okay.
You heard that. It makes last year okay. So, that in a nutshell describes the innovation from all of our teams. So let's go to the next slide. Let's go to another case study. All right, here's another one. We did this for the Super Bowl. We worked with Verizon to do an experience called Ultra Toss, where a fan sitting in the stands at the Super Bowl could hold their phone up, and on the 5G network, you could see a truck in the middle of the field, right? We actually put a fake truck that we rendered through augmented reality in the middle of the field, and fans could now toss footballs into that truck. And you could see other fans tossing footballs into that truck. And this is, again, the power of a 5G network, right? And the ability to do these kinds of low latency real-time experiences. So we work closely with Verizon to actually build an experience where you could do things like this, again, on the 5G network. Let's go to the next case study. And you'll see several examples, again, of the type of innovation clubs have been really doing during this pandemic time. And hopefully that gave you a taste for some of those. And when the slides come back up, you'll be able to see many more of those, not just the augmented reality that you saw, but we've done things like, for example, with the Seahawks, fans couldn't go to the stadium, but we allowed fans to buy posters for every game directly from their team mobile app. Another example, fans couldn't buy merchandise from the stores. So we built an auction feature so that fans from their couches at home could bid on items and have them shipped to their home. That auction feature raised about $250,000 for the Chicago Bears. It raised about $100,000 for another team. Food and beverage ordering. So you see this one, the Allegiant Stadium. Fans couldn't go to the stadium. And this is a brand new stadium. They couldn't go to the stadium. Instead, they could pick up food from the stadium. So we built a feature so you could do food and beverage ordering, order food from the stadium, pick it up, and then bring it back home. If you want to go to the next slide, you'll actually see cars driving up to the stadium and picking up food from the stadium, right? So again, every feature we had was reimagined. And again, the credit is not us, Yin's Camp. The credit is to our clubs who are so innovative that they're thinking so far ahead. And every feature we had, they really used it in very interesting, creative ways. And that really drove the platform forward over the last year. And while the slides are coming up, any other questions that anybody else has about either our cards platform, the kind of creativity that some of our teams had during COVID, or anything else? Any other questions that anybody has? Questions, feedback, anything else while the slides are coming up?
There's no questions, Priya, so far.
All right, no problems. Then we'll wait for the slides to come back up. So one of the other things as well, while the slides are coming up, we have, as I think I said earlier, about 200 different segments. So let's talk about some of the segments that some of our teams use. In stadium, out of stadium, different languages, season ticket member, non-season ticket member, club seat holder, which means in the loge boxes, sky boxes, court side, which means right next to the pitch. So all these are different segments that we have. So all of these are different segments that our clubs use. So we can go past the slide. I think this is a case study we've already covered. So yeah, let's go past these case studies. Here's another one where beer is delivered to a fan seat. So this is something that we built with the Houston Rockets. So again, example of creativity, an example of innovation. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to another case study. Here's the example of the Seahawks. You can see with the poster purchase. Here's an example of something we did with the Chicago Bulls. In the next slide, where you could see we had the ability for fans to stay in a chat room and be able to bid on different items. This is the Seahawks poster purchase where they were able to raise about $60,000. Even though fans couldn't go to the stadium, they were able to buy things and have them delivered. Again, doing mobile commerce and things like that inside the team app. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see this feature Bulls drops that we did, where essentially every day fans go to the team app and they wait for 15 minutes. And if they wait there for 15 minutes, they don't know what they could win. And maybe 8 fans, 10 fans could be picked every day and they could win something, right? So again, you have a feature built during the pandemic to allow for engagement, even if the fan happens to be on the couch. Let's go to the next slide. And while we're going to the next slide, one of the questions that was asked is, do we have any issues with rights and things like that? We work closely with the team. So as long as, or the league, and as long as the team or the league has the rights, we are able to do all these things in their team app. And for example, if the team or the league has rights to their live video, has rights to all of the different footage inside their stadium or outside their stadium, we're able to carry it as an OTT platform inside the app. So we're able to do that. For highlights, some of the leagues have their teams actually have access to the highlights. So we can carry highlights in the app. So if you look at some of our NBA team apps, you'll see highlights in there. So it depends on the rights and the broadcast rights and the rights with the league and the team, but we can carry things like that in there. Here's another example, digital collectibles. So you can have things that fans can start to collect that are digital items in the app, especially every time they go to a game, they can get a digital item they can start to collect, especially around that game. This is a lot like NFTs, right? Except you're getting some kind of a digital token for every game you attend. So we built things like digital collectibles. Let's go to the next case study. And again, to go back to my previous point, all these things happened during the pandemic. Let's go past the slide. So these are interactive cards. So we built a whole series of cards where, for example, you see this noisemaker card for the Saints. Fans couldn't go to the stadium. And usually when they go to the stadium, they make a lot of noise, right? So you couldn't do that, but you could do that through the team app, where you could make a lot of noise through the team app. So you can see a couple of examples for both the Saints and the Giants, where we built a way for fans to cheer through the app and to actually ring a loud bell and make a lot of noise through the team app. Let's go to the next slide. And as the slides come up, you'll see again, examples of case studies for creativity under COVID. And hopefully as soon as they come up, we can finish up with the last couple of case studies. And then I'd also like to thank all the clients who worked with us, because without them, this was not possible. So again, without our clients really pushing the envelope with us and believing in us and trying to do these really innovative things, this would not be possible. In this one, let me show you. Let's play that last video with the boot in it. You can see the one with the shoe in it. All of these are examples of interactive ads where you're using your finger on the surface of the phone to actually scratch off an experience. So in the Ravens example, that last video, what's interesting is fans couldn't go to the stadium, but fans have a tradition of rubbing the boot of this player's statue before they go into play, before they go in to watch the game. We let fans do that digitally through the app by letting them rub the boot through the app. Again, an example of creativity under COVID, right? So to really look at how somebody could push the envelope by using not just the mobile app, but by using the surface of the phone screen to do something digitally to actually drive the experience forward. Let's try the next slide and let's see if it loads. So, and once you see the next one, you'll see we also did a whole bunch of things like arcade games. So again, to keep the fan on the couch engaged and to keep the fan on the couch engaged, even if they couldn't go to the stadium. So in all the examples you see here, the case studies I presented, you won't see anything about mobile ticketing because fans couldn't go to the stadium. You won't see anything about let's do something innovative inside the stadium because fans couldn't go to the stadium. Instead, a lot of these examples were, how do you bring the stadium home to the fan? For example, how do you bring stadium food home to the fan so that they can eat it at home? How do you bring the stadium home to the fan through that AR portal? How do you keep the fan on the couch engaged? How do you do that despite not having matches live inside a stadium? And a lot of the features we ended up building over the last year look like that. Let's just go to the final couple of slides. And I think this is the last case study we had. If we can go to the next slide. And we built a lot of these kinds of arcade games as well so that fans could continue playing inside their team app. And I think we're close to wrapping up here with the last couple of slides, and then we can take questions. Thank you for listening. We wouldn't be who we are without our clients. So a huge thank you to all of them. They believe in us. They work with us. They help to push the platform forward. Without them, we wouldn't exist. So at the end of the day, all we do is we provide a voice to the work that they do and the innovation they have. And especially under the pandemic, they had a remarkable amount of innovation. So really, hopefully you've had a sense of not just how our platform works, but how creative our clients were under COVID. And it's their creativity under COVID that I really wanted to celebrate today. And again, thank you so much. And if we can put up that last slide with my email address, I'm also on the WFS app, so feel free to reach out to me. And again, a huge thank you to all the people who believe in us and work with us. And my email address is up there as well. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Hi, Priya. There's no question here, but this round of applause is for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Sorry for all the challenges with the slides, but feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Priya.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.